Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Urbana Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, Tuesday, September 21st at 7:01. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Here.
Annie Adams, Shannon Baranek,
Here.
Kara Dudek,
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle,
I'm here.
Audrey Ishii,
Here.
Susan Jones, Jeff Marino,
Here.
Sartak Prasad, Nancy Westcott.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
So Barb Sartak is here, but we couldn't hear him.
Oh,
Yeah, I
is
think
he
he
muted?
didn't unmute. He unmuted late or something.
Yeah, I unmuted. I don't know why it didn't work. Can you
Your
hear me
lips
now?
moved, but there was
Yeah.
no
I hear you
sound.
now.
I can hear you. I'll change it that you are present, Sartak.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum.
You have a quorum. And is there anyone else present?
Yes, Annie just joined.
There are two members of the public, Charlie Smythe and Chris Lehman.
And how does Mr. Lehman spell his last name? Or I shouldn't. Lehman?
L-E-H-M-A-N. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Kat Trotter is shown here as well as Carol Mitten. I didn't know if you can see those or not.
Okay. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none. Could we have approval of the minutes from previous meeting in August? Were there any corrections for that?
I have
Yes.
just a minor. Yep. Sorry, Cynthia, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Sarthak.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say under the announcements, the bike to work day, I had mentioned it was from 7 to 10 a.m. It's listed as 8 to 10.
Okay.
It's minor, it's already happened. So, but yeah, just wanted to update that.
Okay.
So starting on line 36, I have a correction and I've already communicated with Barb on this, but I wanted to change that to the following. Cynthia Hoyle mentioned that she liked many of the elements presented in the Equity and Quality of Life program. She stated that she preferred giving points to projects that were part of existing plans. Audrey Ishii mentioned that she thought the eQual funds should be used for projects that were not part of existing projects. Shannon said that these funds should not be used for planned projects. She suggested funds might be able to be used for plans that were not approved for specific grants, but were worthy of support. And Barb and I already had an email exchange about this. In fact, she went back and listened and gave me the wording, so.
Yeah, that's kind of how I remember it. Anybody have any objections to those changes? Audrey, you're muted.
Did I say I didn't think the project should be in plans, or that I was concerned about adding points that weighted the projects unduly when they're already in the plan? I didn't think I was opposed to projects that are in plans. Just questioned whether they needed to have extra points assigned for that reason. What you just read, it sounded like you said I was opposed to having projects that exist in plans.
It said that you thought that the funds should be used for projects that were not part of existing projects. It actually didn't mention plans.
Oh, okay. Well, I probably won't worry about that since I didn't go back and listen.
Well,
But
and-
I didn't recall that. I just thought that weighting it with extra points seemed like double counting to me, that's all.
Yeah, and I think what Shannon's clarification was that, yes, we should absolutely not include any projects that are already
Underway.
being considered for funding.
Sure.
So I think that'll,
Yeah, we may be able to talk about that some more today, but that I think that it at least gets a discussion, I think represents a discussion pretty well. So do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move as amended.
Moved by Cynthia,
Seconded.
second,
I second
Sartak?
it. Yep.
And seconded by Sartak. And we need a roll call for that.
Bill Brown,
Yes,
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Shannon Baranik,
Yes.
Kara Dudek,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Audrey Ishii,
Yes.
Susan Jones, Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Sartak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott.
Yes.
That motion was approved.
that motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have public input. Who wants to go first? Charlie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is Charlie Smythe, Chair of Champaign County Bikes. I just want to give you an update on Bike to Work Day 2021. This year's Bike to Work Day, postponed from past May, and of course, canceled last year, was held a week ago, Tuesday, September 14th. We had 16 welcome stations with 9 on campus, 2 in each city, as well as stations in Mahomet, Savoy, and Rantoul. We had 809 pre-registered, breaking our previous record set in 2010, and 148 walk-ins. As part of the overall Bike Month theme, we also had Bike to Work tables set up at the 3 Light the Night stations that same evening, as well as spending 3 Saturdays at the Urbana Farmers Market. We had some organized community bike rides, thanks to Cynthia, and the Moonlight Rides. And we have 2 more events to go yet. We have a Bike Your Park event in Crystal Lake Park scheduled for October 3rd that maybe Kara can talk about later, and Walk and Roll to School Day that I'm sure Cynthia will tell you about, October 6th. So far, we've given away 987 shirts. That's probably a new record too. Though we were a little rusty with the work of the Bike Month Planning Group, consisting of representatives from the local agencies and bike interests, chaired by Gabe Lewis of CCRPC, and Light the Night efforts led by Sarthak Prasad. And Sarthak, I'm sure, will tell you about Light the Night. We had very successful events. The City of Urbana had a very nice setup and turnout at the Busey Bank Building in downtown. So my thanks to Kat Trotter, who led efforts for the first time, and she was assisted by Marcus and joined by a team of Lily, Andrea, Lori, and Stephanie at the Vision Urbana table. If I've left somebody out from staff, I'm sorry. I left early. Marcus also took the lead on the Light the Night efforts at the Hailing Gateway. We're very grateful for the many city, campus, and business staff who helped out, as well as the many community and student volunteers that spent many hours helping out with these activities. It's not possible without this level of volunteerism, coordination, and teamwork. Finally, the t-shirts would not have been possible without the generous support of our sponsors, MTD in particular, as well as several bike shops, bike groups, and community foundations. We'd welcome BPAC as a sponsor in the future. So Gabe has collected up our thoughts and comments on how to make the events even better next year, and we're going to have a wrap-up meeting in the very near future as soon as we coordinate our schedules. We're analyzing and still analyzing and collecting information and suggestions. I don't think we know exactly how 2022 events will be scheduled, but I'm expecting various activities in May and September, with Bike to Work Day most likely in September. So switching topics real quickly, separately, I've emailed you the status of Champaign County Bike's 3-foot sign campaign and our recommendations for some starting points for discussion with the City of Urbana. so that you can take them up as desired and appropriately between yourselves, Public Works, the Traffic Commission, Mayor, and City Council. So thank you very much. I can't hear anybody.
Okay.
Everybody's muted.
Sorry, Charlie, were you done?
Okay, now I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm all done. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Yeah. Any questions for Charlie? Okay.
Can I was just gonna say, can I just say congratulations? I thought it was a really very successful event. I love the t-shirts. I love seeing them. I love that it happened in September. I'm seeing the t-shirts all over campus now. And I think we'll continue to see this same shirt everywhere over throughout the year. So I think that's been really successful. And my only comment would be whether it's bike to work day or if it's bike day, and you don't need to respond. And if it's bike day, we have lessons on, we teach people how to ride bikes, and we have groups of people. That's something I've long wanted. So that's just those are just my two comments. But congratulations, everybody. It was really just absolutely fantastic. And I thought, actually, I know it was a pain to do both events on the same day, but I think people was wearing a shirt, and then you'd hear, oh, you can get lights. And I think it really worked well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about the signs.
I put that together in a fairly comprehensive memo, Nancy. I just sent that in email, so you may not have seen it yet.
Oh, okay. I saw something with, I think it was a different topic maybe, but it had a lot of diagrams on it, but I'll wait for something else.
Nancy,
Thanks.
it's the PDF after the diagrammed image. That diagram, yeah, there's a PDF at the bottom below that. Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let me explain. Yeah, that's a heat map that I put together by blowing up different sections of Urbana and Champaign and the county, in fact, so that we could sort of map out where we thought bicyclists and infrastructure and various intersections with traffic were occurring. So that's how we started our discussion amongst ourselves and with people who provided suggestions on where signs could possibly be located. So that's the picture, but the PDF that goes with that has the actual discussion.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we can all have a chance to take a look at that email and maybe put that on the agenda for next month. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Chris Lehman, and I wanted to just bring up a concern about the intersection of Washington and Race in terms of pedestrian safety. I've noticed, specifically the southwest corner of Washington and Race. That's what I wanted to speak about briefly. I've noticed both as a driver and as a cyclist that when I'm approaching Race Street from the west on Washington, that it's difficult to see pedestrians who are waiting to cross at that southwest corner from west to east. This intersection was redone a few years back, and the crossing was moved back, which made it much more accessible, but also made it a lot harder for drivers in particular to see pedestrians who are waiting to cross the street. I actually took a picture of this, and you can see it on the Google Street View as well if you want to do that, just to see that there's a lot of kind of brush, and also just the positioning makes it hard for people to see. It used to be right there on the corner where you would cross, but now it's been moved back, like I said, for accessibility reasons. It's a concern for me because my daughter walks to school and she crosses that intersection twice every day. And I actually had her stand at the intersection just so I could see while I was driving my car. And you could probably see in the picture that it's difficult to see somebody there. So yeah, it's a complicated intersection. It's busy, especially around school times. And yeah, I just wanted to know if there was something, even if something can't be done, if it could at least just be looked at in terms of safety going forward. So thank you.
And thank you.
I'm not
Chris
seeing a
did-
photo. I'm not
Chris
seeing a.
email the pictures to me, and that'll be part of my presentation on that topic when we get to that. And yeah, so yeah, thanks for bringing this back to us, Chris. I know it's something some of us have talked about before, but I think when we have the presentation, we'll see that there are possibly some things that can be done about it.
Well, and it's only anecdotal, but it does seem to me that since everyone's back in school now, since COVID has been a thing, there seem to be more cars. I know there are parents who are not having their kids ride the bus, and I'm guessing that's part of the issue. And I understand that too, not wanting for health reasons to, limit your exposure and all that, but it does seem, like I said, busier than ever. So that's part of my concern as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chris? Or we could, yeah, if there's any questions right now, go ahead, but we will have a presentation later. Okay. And I see Jeff joined us. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about, Jeff? Doesn't have his hand up, so I guess not. Oh, okay. Okay. Let me get my agenda back. Okay, so next is unfinished business, equity and quality of life discussion. And Carol's here. Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Take it away.
Okay, I'm just moving this project along. I had shared with you some of the sort of my early thoughts about to get your feedback. This was a couple months ago about the types of projects that would be considered and the rating system. And you gave me some good feedback, and I tried to incorporate that in this latest version. So this is I'm trying to keep it to 2 pages on the explanation and then a short application. So I'm looking for, you don't have to give it, you can give me any feedback you have tonight, or you can just give it to me over the next couple of weeks. But the idea is, we're moving towards actually making this live and accepting applications for the program, which is a total of $2 million, as you may recall. And so just in walking through this, basically the outline of the program, I talked about the purpose of the program and the purpose of the application process. The types of infrastructure projects were expanded a little bit based on your feedback, and then trying to have a pretty simple application process with a couple of phases to it. In talking to, and I think some of this is, this will be the first time we're doing a program like this, so we'll have to sort of feel our way through some of it. But in talking today with the Public Works Director, he was concerned. I was concerned about getting proposals for things that were too big, and he was concerned about getting proposals for things that were too small. So I may want to add some language in here about among the factors that will be considered is sort of the efficiency of building something. So if we have to mobilize in multiple disparate locations for small projects, those would, you might want to consider those as less desirable than ones that could be maybe a group of small projects that were in the same neighborhood, for instance. So, and then I had also on the second page under the application review in the third paragraph, I had highlighted the review, which would be the sort of the second tier review where points would be assigned. And I highlighted staff or contract support staff. I didn't know if anyone on BPAC would want to take on that rating responsibility. It's really, you have to look a few things up to see. For instance, we would have to assist with the any documented fatalities or injuries and so forth. But in terms of and NIBRS, crime, we would have to provide that as well. But people could look up the documented low to moderate income areas per HUD. So I didn't know if anybody was interested in that. Otherwise, we can just have staff do that. But I didn't want to foreclose that opportunity if somebody on BPAC was interested. So that's the little overview of what I provided. I wanted that we have a fillable form that really only has a couple sections for people to keep it simple. Happy to answer any questions or take any feedback.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, I had, well, first of all, I want to say I really like the form and its simplicity. I think that's really great. And in terms of the scoring system, that was part of why I was referring to the plans that we have, because some of this work has already been done in those plans in terms of looking at where there were fatalities, where there were crashes. There's data in those plans up to the point that the plan was approved. And with the pedestrian plan, for example, there won't be a lot more recent data to be added in. There will be some, and we should certainly supplement it with any crashes that have happened since they were adopted, but it will have that in there. It'll also have the connectivity part of it and some of the other things that we're looking at. So that was one of the things I thought about, you know, that those plans had vetted those, you know, and they also, for example, looked at the sidewalk conditions and the ADA ramps for every sidewalk in town and every ramp in town. So we have a lot of data in those plans, which is why I thought that they might be helpful in gathering some of that data together, and which is why I thought we should just, you know, use that. The other thing I would want to say is that, for example, I completely understand not wanting to have too many projects that are too small. However, I think we need to be cautious about excluding things like requests for crosswalks. That's a small project, but it doesn't, you know, I think those can be lumped together where you get numerous requests. You can lump those together into one contract for striping. And so I think that one we might want to treat slightly differently. And also there may be crosswalks where people are looking for something more depending on the design of the road. You might need to have, if it's more than 2 lanes, one each direction, then you also have to look at things like, do we need a pedestrian refuge island? Do we need signs, all of that sort of stuff. So anyway, those were just some thoughts that I had. And I think, yeah, this is a very, very good proposal, and I'm interested in taking a look at what you get. And I was also curious, how are you planning to get people to engage with us on this? Because trying to get the public's attention is always a challenge.
Right. Well, we've had some, I think we've had some success with the Imagine Urbana effort to reach out and make contact with people that we haven't heard from before. And so we've learned a lot from their efforts about what works and what doesn't in terms of reaching more diverse populations. But some of it is just, I think we have to give ourselves some time to get that reach. And we may have to go on a couple of rounds, you know, we may, since we've never done this before. And I would say one of the reasons, just reflecting back to what you just said in terms of what's in plans, some of this is giving people an opportunity to advocate for something, you know, because it means something to them or it means something to their community. Because we could come up with a list. We have lists upon lists upon lists. But this is giving people an opportunity to say, you know, this would really make a difference in my life or my family's life or my neighbor's life. So, you know, trying to connect with folks, whether it's through their faith community, through their elected representative on the council, through some of the, you know, the community organizations. You know, we're going to try and we'll see what we get. And I think we'll learn a lot and maybe hope that we get a few that we can then test drive it and then go out again. I mean, we're not going to be able to implement all the projects at once anyway. So I think, we could learn something through this, and then people could also realize, hey, there's money out there, and changes can come to your community. But we also want staff to be able to submit projects too for areas that have been, especially problematic, or where they have a special passion. So, I'm excited to get started. So, if over the next couple of weeks, you all can give me any, you can, if you have wordsmithing suggestions or additional things, and then we'll come back with a rollout plan for your next meeting and go from there.
The only other group I would suggest is through schools.
Yeah.
The work that we do with them, I'm working on Walk and Roll to School Night for October 6th now, which, by the way, you all are invited to join and walk with students. And we get feedback with that as well. We get walkability checklists from families identifying issues. And we've shared that in the past with city staff, and we'd be happy to we just scan them in and send them to you. You can take a look at what we get submitted from parents and kids.
Okay, great.
I'll add that I think I originally wanted to provide extra points for something being in a plan, but I think a lot of these proposals are going to have to be council driven too. A lot of council members are going to have to try to solicit ideas from their constituents, and the plans will be useful references to go to see what things in their wards don't have specific funding planned and are needed. So I think they could at least be used for references for that. But also these projects are a little bit broader than our plans cover, because our bicycle pedestrian plan at least doesn't cover street lighting so much. It may touch on it. And then it also doesn't consider crime the way this point system does. So the rating system's a little bit different. I think it's different enough that in order to compare all the projects equally across the board, you pretty much have to have a separate rating system. But I do think that referring to the plans to help solicit the applications, I was looking for there it is. I like the simplicity of the application. I think that'll help. Just 3 questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's good. I know we had talked about maybe trying to get more neighborhood support and petitions and things. So I'm kind of glad that that's not in there, because this will, I think, encourage more ideas. And I think the more the better, the more we can combine or whittle it down. I did have one question about the time, how far back for documented fatalities, injuries, accidents, crime, things like that. Are you thinking like a 5-year look back period?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, but does that make sense? 5 years, 5-year look back?
The standard for any time I do a signal warrant analysis is 5 years.
Okay.
And then on the crosswalks and things like that, some of those will have to involve studies that we'd probably have to pay for separately too, because we don't have the staffing for that. So if those could be combined and have somebody do the studies that need to be done, if they need to be done, another reason to kind of, that they aren't quite as small as they may appear at the beginning.
Well, and I think that'll be part of the, after the projects are rated, and then they're actually scoped and costed, we get the cost estimates that will get factored in at that point. If studies are necessary as well.
I think the staff would pretty much, as far as your question on what we could help with, I think the distance or the near accidents and crimes and things like that, you guys will have to do. We might help with the connectivity. We might be a little bit more aware of the connectivity issues. maybe a few people could volunteer to help with that.
Okay, well,
Well,
go ahead.
The pedestrian plan and the bike plan both, I think, identified projects that would help make connections. If I remember correctly, that's included. So I think we might be able to pull those out, and we might be able to ask Kuat staff to sort of help us. They may have some suggestions as well, since they did both those plans.
Okay.
Any other comments on that?
If someone is going to fill out an application, is there like a staff person they can call to kind of wrap their head around what's being, like, what staff are looking for? Because I know a lot of what we're doing is trying to make sure that there's no barriers, but I feel like it could still be a little bit overwhelming in the onset of the project.
Yeah, I don't have anybody working with me on this yet, so I'll put myself as a point of contact. I like having something kind of light to work on instead of some of the other things that I have to deal with. So I'll put myself down.
When people are filling out an application, they generally want to know how it will be scored. So I think a lot of the public wouldn't feel comfortable that they know the answers to these questions. How will we be presenting this information on how it will be scored?
My plan is that it will be presented just as you see it. And maybe to Kara's point, if somebody doesn't understand what that means, then they can call. The idea is I want people to understand how we're going to rack and stack this, but it's not set in stone that this is going to be ultimately determinative, because it's a guide. It's a guide. It's not a outright competition, because we're not actually giving anybody else money. This is a guide for how we're going to spend our money ourselves. And I could give much more explanation about what it all means, but then the documentation gets a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with the group A crimes and group B crimes, I think there's 4 or 5. Is that the one that's like 4 or 5 crimes in each of those groups?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you could list those.
Okay.
And then I was just wondering, we're under the connectivity, since Cynthia mentioned that a lot of our plans refer to connectivity on some of the projects. Could we say part of a documented safe route to school, or identified need in one of our existing plans for the connectivity? Would that make sense, do you think, you guys? That's the 10 points. So in other words, just expanding the safe routes to school to other identified connectivity issues.
I'll figure out a way to wordsmith that and get it into that slot. And also, I made up all these points. So if you want to suggest different points, please do. But I did, after we talked the last time, I did increase the number of points for neighborhood need up to 30, because we really do want to target this into neighborhoods that have been overlooked and underserved.
That's not like an automatic 30 if you're in a HUD. If you're in a CDBG, it's not automatic 30, it's more of a range.
No, it's a 30.
It's an automatic 30 if you're in that. Okay.
Yes.
I think having a solid number is better, because if you let it be a range, you're going to get too much subjectivity between person A grading it versus person B.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I'd be happy to take your comments, via email or give me a call over the next couple of weeks, and then I'll be back to your October meeting.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say the big thing, like everyone keeps bringing it up, is I know one way to reach the whole city is to work with our council members and let the council members know that this is happening. And I'm sure you're well aware of that. But yeah, distributing it through them, and then that way we reach the whole city and we reach the small, we're dealing with smaller pockets of people, and you're not just sending a big net out. So I think this is really exciting. Thank you for taking the lead on this, Carol. This is very exciting.
Thanks. I'm having a good time with it.
Well, one example to see how this would work that we could think through is what's coming up next on the agenda is this safety at the Washington race. Now, while I realize that's probably not going to get the 30 points HUD issue, just to think about how if Chris or someone else were to want to apply for funding to improve the safety at that location, let's say it's going to be somewhat more elaborate than just a painted stripe. Would they feel overwhelmed with this scoring system, or would they feel confident that they can put it in? What if they want to document some of these things? It's just a thought experiment. As we listen to what Bill shows us, maybe we could think about how that kind of application would work. I think just looking at this, I'm guessing we do have a documented fatality, probably injuries, I don't know. But if the person wants to look that up, would they know what to do? Or should we, and I could do this, go through and add some information on how to get that data? I don't know. It's just, if I'm putting in a grant, I kind of want to address the criteria is all. And I know we don't want to make this complex. That's very important. I'm just wondering if people will feel blindsided that they put something in and they didn't understand how it would be scored, or if because it's a pretty low investment process, hopefully people will feel very comfortable with putting their things in and will not feel angry or upset, because it's not I have to say the investment in putting it in is not high, thanks to the simplicity of this form. In fact, it's similar to what Cynthia's done with our wiki map for Vision Zero, where it's just, what would you suggest? And people do that on their own without expecting necessarily action or anything. They're just giving their input. Maybe if we can sort of, I think that from that point of view, it's less like applying for a grant than giving your input and hoping that it may rise to the top of the priority list.
Right. Maybe, yeah. I don't want people to feel like it's applying for a grant. And so I'm wondering if even the word application is the right word. Like maybe recommendation would be better.
Yeah, I think that would work. Something that just doesn't make you feel like I didn't understand what I needed to win this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you just say ideas? I mean, can it just be ideas? Or now I'm getting in the weeds, but you just have suggestions, ideas, thoughts?
Yeah, that's an idea. The idea is an idea, but I hadn't thought of the application being a deterrent, but it's probably true. Because we aren't really asking them to follow through on anything. It's a one-time deal. This is what they submit, and then it goes to staff and
right.
Yeah.
And the purpose of the narrative is just to tell them once you give that to us, these are the kinds of things we're going to be going through in order to prioritize the recommendations or ideas that we received. It's just to be transparent about what happens after they hand it off to us.
I think the other thing that would be good about this is if you had duplicate proposals or duplicate ideas, that would kind of take care of that. You could just incorporate different ideas together if individuals are presenting this or applying.
I'm sorry, I don't think I follow what you just said.
Well, if you have two people thinking about race in Washington who don't know each other, they both may submit, an application. In
Mhm.
this way, you wouldn't have two people, it would just, you wouldn't have to worry about telling one person, oh, you're getting the money is being,
Oh, I see.
it's just, it kind of takes care of duplications.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you think of any other words like recommendation, ideas, or proposals that you want Carol to consider to use instead of application, I'll let her know. Okay, anything else?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have reports of city officials, staff, and committees. I know Vision Zero is going to have a small report, I think. Any reports from Shannon? Do you have anything?
We started pouring the bike lane on Main and Lincoln yesterday.
Oh.
The one that Craig brought to you guys a million years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, I saw it was all torn up. And that'll be mostly done. The concrete work's supposed to be done this year, right?
That's the plan, weather permitting. So
nice. That's for the whole project?
Yes.
Very good.
But that's really all I got. So I mean,
okay.
It's pretty much just boring internal engineering stuff going on. So
all right. And Vision Zero, do you have a report?
Yes, so we updated the People for Safe Streets website. So the wiki map is there. And also we added in, we have on there safe routes to school and Vision Zero. And I added in walkability checklists, both in English and in Spanish. I'm trying to find a walkability checklist in French. I have contacted the National Center for Safe Routes to School because I thought there were translations, but if they're on their website, I can't find them. So we'll try and do that. We're hoping to get some more input from families. And I guess that's another thing I could share with Carol is we send out a link to the parents in the schools and we ask them to tell us concerns that they have about their kids being able to walk to school. And we get, I think, more feedback from parents that way than we do on the walkability checklist. So I could certainly share that from the last 5 years with staff and you can take a look at things that people identified. And, I don't think that the city has a record of near misses in terms of crashes. I don't know how they would have documented that. And that's why the wiki maps and some of these other ways of collecting that data, I think would be helpful because I don't think the city has a database for near misses. And so, when people say that there are near misses, that's, we're going to be dealing with their anecdotal information there. And if we get multiple people, then we can, that'll count as a higher probability of a problem. We also are awaiting the letter from the mayor. Bill contacted her and hopefully that will be forthcoming. And we could get that part of it rolling as well. I want to also post the survey that we had 3 or 4 questions that we discussed last spring at a meeting. And the minutes don't reflect any suggestions that you made about that. So I could send that to you again and solicit your suggestions before we post those. I didn't want to have more than 4 or 5 questions for people to fill out, sort of like this application or idea list that Carol is doing. We wanted to keep it simple, but I do want to put that up there as well so that we can get that information from people. And we were wanting to include questions similar to the university so that we have some comparability in the responses we get with our survey and theirs.
Cynthia, Nancy, I think there's feedback on your Cynthia, when I registered for my beautiful new T-shirt, I filled out a survey. Does anyone know what happened to that survey data? Because that can also maybe be aggregated somehow.
Yeah, that Champaign County Bikes has that data. And so I think what we could do is ask them to send any relevant information along to Carol as well for consideration. And that I think, you know, what she's trying to do is get some data that we can use for evaluation. So any relevant data we can offer, I think that they would find that helpful. And you know, if people identify issues that we have data backing up, then I think that's sort of a double barrel confirmation that that's a problem location. So yeah, I think that would be good information to gather as well. The problem, I think, with that data is I don't remember if it was geographic specific. And so people may list problems, but they may not have any idea where those problems were located from the survey that was done for Bike to Work Day. Yeah, and maybe in the future, what we should do is ask people to go to the wiki map and show us where it was, because people can identify issues, but if we don't know where they are, then we can't address them. I think that's all that I have. Did you want to add anything, Audrey or Bill?
I haven't been real involved with the Vision Zero like you and Audrey have. I'm thinking that really going forward, the Vision Zero should have a separate chair. And I know originally Jeff started out on the Vision Zero committee. So, and then I kind of got involved because we needed more communication with the city and the mayor and everything. But really, I think BPAC is enough for me. And it would be better to have either Cynthia or Audrey be chair of the Vision Zero task force. And then for our internal committee, if Jeff or anyone else wants to rejoin that, so we can still have 3 people on that, that would probably be good. But I really am impressed with the progress you've made on this. And I think the only question I have right now is I'm starting to hear rumblings from the west side of Wright Street that there might be some interest in Vision Zero there. And I'm also glad to see more public messaging at the state level and Drive to Zero. What do they call it? Is it Drive to Zero, something like that? So I think there's a little bit of a ball starting to roll, and I think we need to be a little bit flexible going forward to encompass whatever sort of combining might happen or might be good to pursue. Have you started to give any of that any consideration as far as like working more with Champaign? If that is, it doesn't sound like they're immediately going to do anything, but it does seem like there's some interest.
There is some interest. And I think one of the things that they are doing and we need to do is talk to our council members about making Vision Zero one of the council priorities for the upcoming goal setting conference that they have. Usually they have it in the fall. I've heard maybe it's going to be a little delayed this year, but Champaign is also interested in that possibility of making that one of their goals. So it does have a huge advantage for us in that if we're pulling together a task force, some of the same players would be at both. So if we could combine a number of our meetings, there would probably be some things that would be Urbana specific that we would have to go ahead and have a meeting that didn't necessarily include Champaign, but I think a lot of the meetings could probably be joint. And that would help with the resources a lot because Urbana has had difficulty identifying staff that can take this on. And I think that Champaign might be able to find some staff time for that.
Yeah, I think that's particularly important with messaging. If they're going to undertake Vision Zero, we would want consistent messaging across the community. And if the university wanted to be involved in that, I can see us putting together a committee similar to the campus area transportation study group that included the two cities, the university and MTD. I think MTD would be interested in supporting in the messaging. And if we put all of those entities together for a messaging campaign, that would give us an entirely different budget.
Okay. I think that's just something to keep in mind that may come about, hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah, specific ordinances might need to be discussed separately, you know, because there'll be the Champaign may have particular ordinances, Urbana is likely to have others. So, you know, when it comes to that level, but like Cynthia says, the messaging, we can really leverage that with consistent messaging across the whole area. And that is key. I mean, the last four, I believe it's the last four pedestrian fatalities we've had have all been women, 2 in Champaign, 2 in Urbana. And, you know, that says something right there about the messaging we need to look at. There are some similarities in those fatalities, in the way they were treated in the justice system. And tackling that together is just something that's really going to be a lot more effective.
All right, thanks a lot. Anything else on that topic? Should we move on? Okay.
I would just say that like the university, I'm pretty sure like we will be very much involved, or we would be very supportive of this effort. We are supportive of this effort. We have a climate action plan objective for Vision Zero as well. And there's I don't know much about it. The Resilience SWAT team, which is a sustainability working advisory team made up of student staff and staff, and for Resilience SWAT team, there are some community members involved in there as well. I think Scott Tess is in that team from Urbana, and Stacy Gloss is the chair of that SWAT team, and they are working on something to do with Vision Zero. So I think you could reach out to them about the Vision Zero messaging and like how to make the messaging more consistent everywhere over there as well. I can get you in touch. Like if you don't have the contact information for either one of those, like either Scott or I would just send it to Stacy Gloss actually.
Yeah, we have Stacy's contact.
Yeah, so you can just reach out to her, and yeah, I would be happy to be involved, and I know Stacy would be too.
Okay.
I'd like to just make one more point, and that is that we are the leaders on Vision Zero. So I've been working on, and I'm hoping that Bill and Cynthia are also ready to make the presentations that they've made in the past. Our new council has 5 members who've never seen it. I don't even think BPAC has seen some of the presentations that were made to the council. So I'm hoping that any of you who have an interest in talking about Vision Zero in parks or Vision Zero in climate are ready to make such a presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have the budget right now to bring in outside speakers, although there's certainly a wealth of interested and expertise in this community that we can draw on. And it doesn't have to be you. Maybe you know someone who'd be willing to speak. And we could work that into the agendas for the task force, because this is the people coming to the task force are not going to be experts on Vision Zero. Part of the job of staff normally, but us in this case, is to get them up to speed on what it is and what it means and why we're doing it. And usually that's staff led, but certainly the political system is what directs staff. So you need to try and think of yourself as staff in this case, and be an activist council, an activist commission that's looking for those insights. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Good points. Okay, I'll share my screen. Let's see if I can figure out how. Everybody see that? Okay, so this is one of the first pictures that Chris sent me of going east on Washington, or heading east on Washington at the corner of Race. And the crosswalk you can see is down the corner. I'll have an overhead shot too, but you can see, you'll be able to see where it used to be. But it starts pretty far away from the corner. I think that might be one of his children there standing kind of behind the bush. It's hard to see. So that's one of the pictures he was talking about. This is just a Google Street View of the same corner. There you can see the crosswalk that comes across Washington. And then you can see some slightly faded lines there where it used to angle from corner to the existing sidewalk. So they moved it clear back. And I assume that was to conform with ADA requirements. They like to have 90-degree angles. And then it needed a curb cut too. It also made the crossing shorter, so that's another advantage. But I think it did create some problems with visibility. There's Google Maps image, and there you can definitely see the old crosswalk where it used to go and the new crosswalk there. And this was done in 2015, I think, thereabouts. So shortly after it was completed, there was actually a crash here. It was a low-speed crash that killed a retired professor. It hit him hard enough to knock him over, and then he hit his head and ended up dying. But from that one, let me go back one. The vehicle was coming west on Washington and turning south onto Race Street, and didn't see the pedestrian who was somewhere in this area here in the crosswalk. But I'll show a video too of the intersection in 2005, way before the improvements were even made, that Jerry Zico, a former BPAC member, made a video just showing how people roll through stoplights here. And it's pretty easy to imagine a larger vehicle coming up here and not stopping at the line, but stopping up here while they're kind of looking, checking left, and making it hard to see from this angle someone that would be in the crosswalk here. Yeah, in this crash, this was a picture that was in the News Gazette, taken from kind of the perspective, maybe even the other lane, probably the lane on the south, but this is approximately the perspective of the vehicle that struck the pedestrian. And this pedestrian, I don't know if that was a setup or just somebody walking by, but they're not even in the crosswalk. But the one that was struck was somewhere in here, west to east. And there was, I don't actually remember, I don't think it said there was a car here. I've always imagined that there was a vehicle here kind of blocking their view, but I don't know if that's what happened or not. Go back. So here's the video. You can still see that too, right? This video coming. I'll have to wait a few seconds. You can even see, like, if this vehicle, there's the pause. So yeah, if that vehicle that was coming from the east had been stopped there and this pedestrian had started, this was before the new crosswalk. So this is the old crosswalk. The new crosswalk would have come across pretty much straight in front of you. You can imagine a pedestrian starting to cross here and this vehicle completely blocking it.
And second one, I don't think you'd either. Here comes two at the same time. Nobody's made a complete stop yet that I can see.
Well, part of the problem with this intersection is that in order to see, you have to pull up. So even if you stopped back here, you have to pull up in order to be able to see. And so if you pull up the overhead shot of the intersection, again, Bill, you see that's what the problem is there. The streets are not
yeah, they don't line up.
And so the ideal solution here, well, there are two that I would say. One would be a traffic circle that would, help with traffic flow and positioning of pedestrians, and or that corner, the southeast corner, bulbing that corner up and moving that crosswalk back up so that it's straight across and the pedestrians are more visible. I know why they did this, but that particular corner is so much further south that it creates real sight distance issues, and you simply cannot see whether there are cars coming unless you creep forward.
Okay, well, let me keep going. Here was one thing I found online on the IDOT website, and this is an example from Hawaii, but it's an obvious example. Their point is that you should have a crosswalk where people are going to walk anyway. And you have it in this example, it's two big stretches where it was a cockeyed intersection where people were walking across different ways. So they just painted the whole thing. So this was actually a slide from can't see it was a presentation on the IDOT website for pedestrian safety. And they do these workshops, I guess. I don't know if our staff has had a chance to get to any, but they're 1 or 2 day workshops where they will go over a lot of different ways to enhance pedestrian or bicycle safety. And this was from one of their presentations. So this is one possible solution, is to paint out a whole triangle. And I have an example of, so that's the existing, and you can imagine kind of where the triangle would get painted. I'm pointing at the screen, I guess you can't see that there. That's what it would look like if you painted it out, except the lines would be straighter. So something like that would at least give pedestrians permission and the option to go ahead and cross the way they used to. At the same time, you'd still have the right angle possibility for people that, for ADA purposes and just for shorter distances. And I suppose if you're coming up on this side of Ray Street, you're going, you're heading east, it wouldn't make sense to go clear up there. You'd want to go there anyway. So it basically paints out the whole crosswalk where pedestrians might use it anyway. So I just wanted to get your ideas on that. And if you think, it's a fairly low cost option. I noticed that we already sent out the bid documents for the striping this year, but so I guess I have a couple questions really. One is what BPAC thinks of this treatment. I don't think we've tried it before. And the other would be for Shannon about if there needs to be a study to do something like this, or if it would have to go to traffic commission, or if it's something that she can just decide on and give it a try. So those are my questions. Any thoughts?
Every crosswalk needs to be studied. I can't just arbitrarily put one in because it has to be documented. I can't just decide to do it. So, and also
Okay.
crosswalks are not covered in our painting contract. We do those in-house.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I knew that mid-walk crosswalks, I think by state law needed a study, but I wasn't sure about, modifying an existing crosswalk like this, if that would fall under that category or not.
Yeah, because we did that. My very first crosswalk was the one on Matthew Street by the chemistry building, I believe. The first giant one looks like a butterfly. I had to do a bunch of visibility triangles and study on that one. I think Annie actually had sent that one in to traffic commission, if I remember right, because there was like a stop sign and a tire. Yeah.
Okay.
I have quite a few comments. I've used this intersection always. No matter where I've lived in Urbana, I use this intersection all the time. I try to avoid it, but you have to use it. As a car driver, it's not such a big deal, but if you're not in a car, it's bad. I was really hoping when we redid Washington Street, we would make, when we repaved Washington, I was hoping that we would make Washington car traffic one way and two-way bike traffic the other way. There is no sidewalk. The sidewalk ends at the end of Washington. If we are trying to prioritize people walking and biking, this infrastructure, especially for the hundreds of people trying to get to the middle school and high school every day, does not do that. I believe they're actually adding another car parking lot there. So there's going to be even more car traffic. So I find this whole situation really just disturbing. So I think it's kind of what Shannon mentioned is it's looking at an entire system of making this whole system safe for people who want to bike and walk through this intersection. I do like your idea of paint. I think that would be really helpful. I also agree, like if people are ignoring stop signs, it's not so much that they're a bunch of rule breakers. It's just that they can't really see otherwise how to make it through that intersection. But yeah, when I try to bike down Race Street, which is now my go-to street, it's horrible. Anyway, I wish we could come up with a better way for kids to get to school on foot or bike, because it's not great right now in that area.
Other comments?
Yeah, I think that the thing I like about that crosswalk being there is, first of all, there is a faded crosswalk, as you noted, and there's good reason for people to use that particular path in order to increase their visibility, as well as being a direct route from the corner. And what we've seen in the 4 recent pedestrian deaths that I mentioned earlier is there is no ticket issued to the driver when the pedestrian is not within the crosswalk. And the ticket that's issued for killing someone who's in the crosswalk is very trivial indeed, but it does at least allow for civil court proceedings to try and get some kind of compensation for the victim's family or victim. So yeah, just having a crosswalk that is where people are going to go, as that slide indicated, is protection of sorts for the pedestrian. It gives them some kind of legal standing, because this is one of the problems. I don't think people realize that it is completely open season on pedestrians. If you're in the street and hit by a car, they are not ticketing. Okay, so that I'm afraid that would happen there, and we don't want that situation. We want cars to be aware pedestrians may be found anywhere in that area and be held accountable for hitting them.
I would also like to add, there's this great PSA that always would say, pedestrians, they do funny things. And this is one of those situations where pedestrians, they do funny things. And that's called a pathway of desire. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the pathway of desire, where that pedestrian is moving and how that pedestrian is moving. And honestly, you're seeing a pathway of desire when you see the cars slow roll through that intersection. So yeah, I've often thought about that intersection. I'm not 100% convinced, but I have spent a lot of time biking in those areas, and cars are insanely impatient. And yeah, if we could do a two-way bike lane on either side, even like a nice bike lane, and the cars have to share the road in the middle. But cars are coming in and out of that intersection. There's no crosswalk for the students to get to. There's no crosswalk for the students to cross through that massive parking lot to get to school. And there's no way, once they get in that parking lot, a place for them to walk through the parking lot that's even safe. So there's not even a painted space for them to safely walk. It's really just car first all the way. And so I can see why parents are driving. Absolutely. Why not?
Well, and the rolling cars, I guess, could be called the whatever of desire you're speaking. What they're really asking for is a traffic circle or a roundabout there. they're at voting with their tires.
Yeah, I certainly would recommend that Chris be ready to submit a project here when the call goes out for the projects that Carol is working on. And also, I think the other thing that could be looked at if we studied that intersection is you could bulb that corner north and use paint and the bendable bollards there, so that drivers have to make more of a turn when they're trying to go eastbound. And that would tighten that intersection up a little bit. But still, they just simply cannot see, they are not able to see cars coming from the west at that intersection with the stop sign where it currently is behind the crosswalk. So they have to pull forward in order to safely go through. And that's just an issue of the offset of the corner there that might be able to be solved with a traffic circle or a mini roundabout.
I think Chris,
Yeah.
anyone, go ahead.
Just to follow up on following up, I may be atypical in this way, but I'm a data professional by day, and I'm totally comfortable submitting all sorts of, points of data for support of any kind of project. You even mentioned wikis earlier. I use wikis about every day in my job. So yes, I can't represent everybody in that regard, but yes, I would be more than happy to contribute any and all forms of data that you might need to help make a case for something. So.
Okay, thanks.
Do you think there might be a possibility we could get a roundabout? And do you think that would resolve the issue?
I think it has to be studied, Nancy. You certainly cannot put one in without doing a study. You've got to deal with the.
Yeah, it would definitely wouldn't. It definitely wouldn't qualify for the equity funding if it was a roundabout, because you'd have to purchase right away, and that's a disqualifying event.
Well, a mini roundabout or a traffic circle, and they use traffic circles extensively in other communities with a lot of success. You can't purchase, I don't know that you can purchase the roundabout there. It's, the right of way. There's just not much space there. So I think you'd have to be looking at something more like a traffic circle, and that's something that you can find. There's a lot of data on those as well, but it would take someone who's had experience with design to design that so that it's safe for the pedestrians as well.
Buses.
Yeah, and isn't this the intersection where a car has run into twice? A car has hit a house, run into a house twice in this intersection recently, I believe. Yeah, it's just. I mean, 2 times houses have just been run into. So there's just a lot going on there.
I don't believe there are any MTD routes going through that intersection.
That is something that a traffic circle would be fantastic at protecting that house from getting hit again. Yeah, I think people are leery to run into a gigantic potted plant or something. They might notice it.
So there's a bus that comes down Race Street, and so it goes, what, I don't know. I thought there was a bus route that goes there. How do the buses go that drop off the kids to school? They just,
Pennsylvania.
There's a bus.
They do the
They
high
come
school
north.
route. When they pick up the kids from the high school, they go through there, but that's a special, that doesn't happen all day, every day.
They're on Race. They take Race, right? There's a bus on Race. I thought I saw a bus
Yeah,
on
I'm
Race
just
the other
saying
day when I was
buses-
biking through there.
buses would need to be able to negotiate whatever is there.
The traffic circles work, tiny little traffic circles. I mean, they're the size of like orange. They can be as small as an orange cone. Like we're not talking. They can be small. When it's small, I'm even thinking like again. I really would love that Washington Street fixed. I was so disappointed that we redid that whole street and didn't add any. And it's not your fault, Shannon, but I was just really disappointed that we didn't have the vision to add pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure to that whole area. So I just think, because it's such a great area for connectivity. Again, the students, when they try to cross Broadway, there's a crosswalk on one side. You got to do that crazy thing where you cross over and then that whole parking lot's just, there's nothing. You're just walking through the cars. Anyway.
Okay.
It's a question.
Well, I'm concerned that when there could potentially be an easy, not solution, but easy improvement, that it would get sidelined because of grandiose ideas that probably won't get implemented. So I just wanted to express that concern.
I do have to say you're welcome to submit a traffic commission form to Barb. Somebody's feedback on me.
Okay. So that would be the next step if we wanted to pursue this angle, would be to take it to Traffic Commission.
Yes, and I mean, currently I do have to say my queue is very long, so I would not count on the review anytime soon. I do have other things that I have to look at that have already lined up for the next couple months, so.
But
Yeah,
Bill, I think it could be a great start, Bill. Like I absolutely agree with trying to get something done. If there's something implementable to get people started thinking about that area differently, I absolutely go for it. Make it happen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd suggest we pursue that then and go ahead and submit a slip to Traffic Commission. I'm not real clear what Traffic Commission has to get. I know that anything that has to be approved by City Council, like speed reductions, parking, things like that, seem to always go to Traffic Commission, but I'm not clear on what else needs to. And since this wouldn't need council approval, I wasn't sure if this would need to go to Traffic Commission or not.
Not everything that goes to Traffic Commission needs council approval. There's certain things that, as the whoever's got their self not muted, can you try? Because I'm getting some bad feedback. There's things I can do because I'm actually appointed the city's traffic engineer by Tim currently. So this came up in City Council yesterday. I do have very limited experimental powers, which I have to research more. I don't think I can just put in a crosswalk with those. Those are more along like putting in signs and whatnot. And then I still have to take those to Traffic Commission and then City Council. So they still have to follow the process. But like when Andy brought the crosswalk on Matthews to Traffic Commission, that's how it got reviewed. Like it's a good way to get in the queue, because if like I just get a bunch of emails from a bunch of people, they're going to get lost. I get 500 emails a day. So if you get a form to Barb puts them in the system, and then once a month, Barb and I go through the list, see what can and can't be handled right now. There's a bunch of things that deal with Florida Avenue that, because of RPC's Florida Avenue study, we actually put those all in the hold queue, because there's no point in studying those while RPC is studying the same road. So it's a way to help organize the process and not let things get lost in the shuffle. I can't guarantee it makes it go faster, but it does make it so we're organized.
Yeah, and Bill, for that one, I was just like, here's the problem. Cars cannot see pedestrian. Like I just laid out, here's the problem. Cars cannot see pedestrians. Can we? And they had to figure, like there were problems on there and they needed to keep the same amount of parking spots, blah, 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 blah. But it does, is it perfect? No. Does it function way better? Absolutely. So I think just, even if it's just a small improvement like that, I mean, I'm happy to help you work on something or I could send you what I sent to them, but.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward to ask for that specific thing. I mean, I think the biggest argument is that people are going to be walking that way anyway. And this driver's warning to expect that, basically. And it gives the pedestrians permission and legal recourse to use it the way that it's going to be used anyway.
So I checked, the bronze does go through that intersection. I was just looking at the routing. And the bronze does go through. And certainly when they're doing the school routes, there'll be more buses going through that, that location because they do the high school at the beginning and the end of the day.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. I think that was good input on that. And I'll go ahead and submit a form, look up the form. I don't think I've ever submitted one to Traffic Commission, so that'll be fun. Okay.
You have to ask Barb for them. So email Barb and she'll send it to you.
Okay. So let's go on and do the other item.
Oh, and one thing, please don't just copy one and send it to 900 people. They have to ask Barb for them. That's part of the record keeping process.
Okay. Good to know. So let me just go to share again. This is the, yeah, let me try to make it a little bigger. That. Okay, this is the original, just a little background. I think everybody, well, there might be one or two people. I don't think Sartak was probably on commission then. But in 2019, we made a recommendation to expand the sidewalk snow removal district. And this is the memo that I provided to City Council at that time. So I made a presentation in July of 2019 saying that we wanted to expand from, oh, now it's too big. The existing snow removal, required snow removal is in green. And just to remind you how that works is if there's a snow event where there's 2 inches of snow accumulation or an accumulation of ice, then once the Public Works has had a chance to clear the main routes, the Public Works Director signifies that there was a snow event or something. They may have an official term for it, but basically gives people warning that within 24 hours or 48 hours, what was it, 24 hours? Yeah, 24 hours after Public Works Directors clears an event, people need to get their sidewalks cleared. So originally that was in these green areas. And then in 2019, we recommended they expand it north to University and also make a connection on all along University Avenue and all along Green Street, because both of those have been redone now. And at the time, Green Street was almost done then. So we wanted to take advantage of the new nice infrastructure that the city spent a lot of money on and ask the neighboring businesses and property owners keep those clear of snow. And I remember after the presentation in July of 2019, it didn't go immediately to council. They asked for some more information. So Carol came back with kind of a summary of how many people got warnings and how many times the city had to go in and clear and then charge the property owner. And over a period of 5 years, I think it was, there were about, maybe it's 4 years, there were 50 some warnings and maybe a dozen or so times where they had to actually go in and clear and charge people for it. So compliance is pretty good. Sometimes it takes a warning and it takes a little longer and things, but in these areas, it's worked out pretty good. The university actually plows a lot of this area anyway. The city plows a lot of this area anyway on the sidewalks. So probably half of it is already being done by university or city, and then the business owners and property owners in these areas are required to shovel their walks. So then council came back in October and ended up approving the northern additions up to University, but there was some controversy from a couple of property owners on Green Street that didn't want to comply and were worried about being out of town when it happens or something. And so council got kind of sidetracked by that and didn't approve the connections on Green Street or on University. And part of the reasoning at the time was that those projects were still ongoing. They weren't done yet, but now they're done or just about done. So I think it's time to remind council. And so what they ended up doing after they approved the northern additions was they said they would send these two sections back to committee. That was in November of 2019. And usually if they send something back to committee, that means staff will try to answer any additional questions and then bring it back at a future time. And by the time, I don't think they ever got to that point, and then COVID started and council meetings got to be ridiculous anyway. So that never went anywhere. So I think it's time to remind people that this is still, out there, and that we asked for these connections. And I don't know if it takes a presentation or if I could just go ahead and write up the ordinance that needs to be passed to make those connections. So I guess I'm asking your approval to go ahead and do that. Or alternatively, if you want to do something else with snow removal, we could talk about that. But I think this is probably the simplest thing since they kind of left it out there. So that just summarizes where they are with that. So we would want to just make a recommendation to go ahead and add those corridors like we recommended in 2019. And then also if there was discussion that we think we should address, then we could try to do that at that time too. So any thoughts on that?
Yes, please.
I went through it. I went through it kind of fast. Were there any questions? Anything I kind of skipped over too fast?
No, this would be great.
Okay, and I know Cynthia came to the city council meeting, I think before, and spoke. It would help to have one or two other people speak about the need. They did get a little sidetracked, and I don't know if it was a diversion tactic or if it was something that they were serious about, talking about maybe getting the city to do more, contract the city to clear Green Street and University. But if you get, the city, why not have the city do the ones we already have? And then, why not have the city do everything? And, U of I has tons of building service workers and people that do other stuff that are assigned to this in the wintertime, even though it's not their normal job. And Urbana doesn't have that luxury. So I don't think that would work. We have fairly good compliance where it is. And I think along these two corridors, most of the properties are commercial or apartments. If apartments have more than a certain number of units, they're already required to clear their own walks and stairways and things like that. So they're already contracting with people that would just have to do the sidewalk as well. So that would be the argument. So everybody's okay with that? Any objections? Okay, then I'll talk with staff and try to get that rolling before winter seriously starts kicking in. Okay, that completes our agenda. Are there any announcements?
Hey, actually, I have one real quick question. Sorry, I got sidetracked. How can we enforce that on University Avenue? Those are IDOT sidewalks.
IDOT doesn't clear them, do they?
Well, they plow the street. That's their territory. So if they're in the IDOT right away, I'm curious because I wasn't around for the last discussion.
Champaign has a pretty big area and they have IDOT streets that go through that. Let me bring up theirs. I have that. So I have a feeling that Urbana still has jurisdiction over enforcing ordinances on the sidewalk.
I suspect that's true because the University District has IDOT roads and those are not exempted from snow removal. by
I would
property
also
owners.
I would also add that if somebody wasn't mowing their parkway and you had tall weeds and grasses, that IDOT's not going to issue an enforcement letter, whereas the city's neighborhood service division would send them a letter and tell them they have to mow it. It's the same with the snow removal.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue, really. Interesting thought.
Well, on announcements, I would like to invite you all to participate in Walk and Roll to School Day. All of the Urbana elementary schools do something that day. I can send a link to you if you'd like to come to a school and join the activities. You can sign up as a volunteer, and those events can be a lot of fun. It is October 6th. We don't do a rain date. If it's too rainy, we can't do it, but we've never actually had to cancel it, honestly. So we'll cross our fingers and hope that happens this year. And so let me know. I'll send out a link for you to go and look at the information. And it's an important event in raising the community's awareness of the safety of our kids and our joint responsibility to help them be able to walk and bike to school safely. And we have to remind each other of this. It's not something you can say once. We need to say it over and over.
It's October 3rd?
6th. It's the first Wednesday. And I already have some city council members who said they want to come. Yeah, I sent them an email. I can send you all the same email.
I've done it a couple times. It's fun. Other announcements?
So about Light the Night event that was on September 14th from 4 to 7 p.m. We gave out about 750 lights.
Wow.
On for Light the Night. I gave up, I was at alma mater and we ran out of lights. Well, actually I ran out of light 3 times. But I gave away 400 lights at alma mater. Helene Gateway, they also ran out of light and they gave away, 220 bike lights over there. And at the campus bike center, they had a few bike lights left. They had like 20 odd lights left over there. But that's still very good. They gave out about 120 to 125 bike lights over there. So that's the update from there. We also had the Campus Bike Center grand reopening on September 16th. A lot of people showed up for the event. And there was also a group ride led by UIPD, which was really nice. And we actually got a comment from somebody, I cannot remember who sent that. I think Charlie forwarded that email that they would like to have some of these group rides more like throughout the bike week and at a time which is more convenient. This time we did it at 5 p.m. They wanted 5:15 to 5:30 so that after they could join afterward. So yeah, both of those events were very cool. Actually, all 3 of those events, I include Bike Center grand reopening. All 3 of those events were very good, met a lot of people, and the overall response, I would say, was very positive. And like having Bike to Work Day and that's my personal opinion. Basically, like I thought it was more of a welcoming event, having it in September, like and people were more relaxed because like if you have it in May, it's closer to finals week and there's a lot of stress. So yeah, we, as Charlie said, like we haven't decided yet, but maybe next year Bike to Work Day will happen in September again.
Yeah, I like it. I'll second that too. I was going to say something earlier when Charlie brought it up, but I think, there a lot of the new student stuff and a lot of stuff is starting in the fall. So if you want people to get started on good habits, biking to work or biking to school, and I think that's the time to do it. It seems like in May, everybody's kind of leaving, or,
Yeah.
a lot of people are leaving and a lot of people will never, some of them will never be back, but it does make more sense, I think, with our schedule to have it in the fall.
And a few of the final, like the third announcement, maybe like a few of the bike paths on campus, they were painted recently. And I like those are also like just wanted to let you guys know, like the Armory Avenue bike path that runs through the quad connecting Armory and Wright to Goodwin Avenue, that was painted. And there were a couple of other bike paths that they did, but I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment.
Yeah, and I can add that those are great. They have white striping on both sides, yellow line down the middle, which really helps pedestrians not walking in that space. And I told Sarthak on bike day or Bike to Work Day, I saw a woman like who you could tell this is her first time riding a bike in a really long time. And she was just very careful and very concentrating, following that white line and like where it went and how to like get to where she was going. So really great. That's just really helpful. Thank you for doing that.
Any other announcements?
Would it be okay if I shared the flyer for the event in Crystal Lake Park on October 3rd?
Sure.
Just bring it up on my screen real quick.
Very good.
Annie, I promise that I haven't forgotten about you. It's nearly done. But I'm going to be sending, once it's completed, this 2-page flyer to you all and a link to the Urbana Park District website where there's some more information. But we're having what we're calling an open road event. And so the road will be closed to traffic within the park. And so this is the large pavilion area where the playground is in Crystal Lake Park, and this whole yellow line is the road where it will be closed, and it can just be enjoyed for cycling, walking, pushing strollers, rolling in whatever means you would like. And there is, the Park Street path and also a sidewalk on Broadway, but this is really about giving you a lot of space to recreate and also celebrating what has been done in Crystal Lake Park within the last few years and providing some renderings and some feedback mechanisms for what is, coming in the future, because this park has been in the Urbana Park District since 1907. And just because some work has been done and some planning has been done doesn't mean, there isn't more to do. And so there's a little bit about that on the flyer. Viewing the updates, future planned improvements, and providing input. And the road itself will close at first thing on that Sunday morning, and you can enjoy it at any time throughout the day. But from 12 to 4, Park District staff, which includes me and planning department, the Urbana Mobile Recreation Unit with, music and things, will be there concentrated from 12 to 4 near the large pavilion. And it's just really for anyone to get out and, enjoy socially distanced recreation. And I'm hopeful that the weather will be beautiful considering the time of year. But there's a lot to celebrate in the park, and just encouraging people to be healthy and be involved in the community.
Kara, there's just a couple of comments. One comment, basically, there were 2 or 3 places I saw the same thing. Urbana is spelled wrong.
No, I think that's a Urbana mobile unit. It's
It's
play
we.
on
It
words.
is we. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Urbana.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know
It's
that.
yeah, it's like a pun because it's a van.
Okay.
A van,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But now, since you noticed that, you're never going to forget about Urbana.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, Urbana rolled out like right when COVID hit. And so it was like at very small events. And this past summer, it's been more widely at like things for the school district and our own park district events. But a lot of people and families engage with it. And it just has like, sometimes there's crafts and sometimes there's music and there's always like yard games. And it's just a way to try to bring like the recreation to people instead of them coming to parks. But I'll share that flyer once it's finished tomorrow, just some tweaks on the map. Everything else is accurate. And then there's going to be a web page like that explains some of the planning initiatives with a little bit of background info. And then like you can kind of dive deeper into some renderings and some past web stories if you want. But like it's just hard to reach people. And so we're trying to reach them in person at the event and then have an online survey and just word of mouth.
And there's no registration or anything, right? Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, just can you send it to me? I'll post it on the Bike at Illinois website as well.
Sure. And then another thing you may have seen on the flyer, but the rain date's the following Sunday, the 10th.
So my announcement, what Cara was referencing is there will be a bike parade. There will be, and it'll start, I think it's Deborah is organizing it, and I think it starts at 10:30 and then it'll end at noon. And I think it'll end at the Urbana. So people can make choices if they want to go home or if they want to. But Deborah was worried about little kids at noon wanting to just like, that they would just crater. So she wanted to have it earlier. So it is not my event. I am just helping her do it. So, but it seems like it'll be really fun. And people are very excited. Parents in particular, I know, whenever I mention what's happening, parents are just incredibly excited that they're going to be able to, you know, come there and bike around. So with their kids and not worry about large machines running them over. So it's very cool. I'm so glad the park district is doing this, Cara. Thank you.
So the bike parade will be entirely within the park?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to be bikes. Yeah, fun decorations and bikes. And so we haven't figured out quite how there'll be like decoration stations and things, but yeah, it'll be very fun. So
very cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool. So, and but what Cara is referencing is we don't want to promote it or share it with like Chambana moms or anything until we get Cara's flyer and everything. So basically we want Park District to lead with announcement and then we follow with, hey, you know, like you can do this other thing, it'll end around noon and then you can, you know, like it'll be a 1-2. So, so basically parents will first see like, oh, wow, look at this thing that's happening. And then if they want to come a little early before the noon event, you know, then they can do this bike parade with their kids. And
yeah,
it's more like a kiddical mass, think of it that way, but yeah. Yeah. So.
Other announcements? Cynthia?
Yeah, I was wanted to say I organized 2 rides the last 2 weekends as part of Ride Illinois. The first one, they're less than 10 miles in length. The first one, we biked out to Riggs Brewery and hung out at the beer garden. People ate and had fun. This last weekend, we biked to Bakery. We biked down to, and I started a park, by the way. This weekend, we started at Weaver Park and biked to the Bake Lab. It's the new bakery at Lincoln and University. And people find low stress routes that way and they can chat and it's a very low speed ride. And there's one coming up. I scheduled another one for October 2nd. So for SARTOC, for those people who want, do short, fun rides, this one will be, that's a Saturday, 2:00. We're going to cycle to ice cream. And we're going to start at Douglas Park in Champaign and bike to I'm going to totally flub this up because what we're going to do is bike to a Mexican bakery. And I don't know how to say the name, but it's over by Boulders. And they have ice cream and treats. And so maybe it's La Michoacana, something like that. And so I was pretty careful. I have to plan that route pretty carefully because you have to cross
Cunningham.
Yeah. And so, but it's only 6.2 miles, and we'll be actually going through Crystal Lakes for part of the routing for that. But trying to give people rides that, kids come and families and people who just want to find fun ways to bike around town and go to places that they haven't been and figure out how to get there, because people just don't know how they can get to these places. So they go in their car.
Great.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the ice cream place is in the Harbor Freight Urbana Boulders parking lot area. I mean, it's a parking lot. There's more parking lot than retail, but yeah, that's.
Cynthia, can you send the details about the ride to me? I'll post it.
I can send you a link to the Facebook event.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for ideas for future agenda items. Does anyone have anything?
Can I ask like one fussy question? I've been biking on the new MCOR, and there are not yield signs on the ground at the bus stops by the bookstore on Wright Street. There are signs that are yield signs, but nothing on the ground. And so I think that's kind of dangerous for cyclists and for people exiting the bus station. Who would and I know they have it further up on Wright Street, who would I reach out to about that? Like, whose infrastructure is that? Does that make sense?
It's on the west side of Wright Street. It goes right down the middle, I think, doesn't it, Jeff? Do you know?
Yeah.
That's all. Wright Street there is all Champaign. We take over Wright Street north of University.
Yeah, because it's weird that they have the striping, they have these little triangle yield signs when you get over, when you cross, it's not Beckman, when you cross to the newest, latest infrastructure that's been put in, that has little triangle yield signs to let you know that you're approaching an intersection where people will be walking, but the stuff there doesn't. So, okay, cool. So I will contact Champaign because I also want to know about that dead end bike lane that just goes nowhere. But they did a big bump out also on some of those, on that giant building that just went up, on that corner that used to have the Espresso Royale. They did a huge bump out there, which is just wonderful. So anyway, if you haven't been over there, check it out.
Are you talking about the campus instructional facility?
Any future topics? Silence.
I think it would be good if we talked about bike rack availability.
I think we have something about bike racks on there. Well, we did, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a misunderstanding. I thought that the available bike racks were, I thought the bike racks that were in storage were purchased with a grant for businesses. But the city is saying that the bike racks, they would prefer the bike racks be installed at parks, nonprofit organizations, and city spaces or something. So it's just a little different. But there are bike racks, and it'd be great to see them installed. So but not in places where no one will use them. So I think that'd be a good discussion.
Okay. Anything else?
There's a 3-foot sign.
Yeah, that's true. By the time I haven't seen his email yet, but yeah, let's put that on there. We can discuss that. Okay. All right, if you think of anything else, let me know. Usually the call for agenda items comes on Tuesday or so, the week before our meeting, and I need to get things to Barb by Wednesday or Thursday. So that's kind of the timeline when we form the agenda, just so you know. Okay. All right, thanks everyone. This meeting is adjourned.